Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today I've got another interview of a PhD student, but this time I'm doing an interview with a medical data science person called Emma Plant. Now, do you want to introduce yourself and say a little bit about what your PhD is and what you're doing and kind of your field?
Sure. So I'm studying a PhD in the Institute of Applied Health Research, and specifically I work in the Centre for Childhood Cancer Survivor Studies. So my background is in maths, that's what my undergraduate degree was in, and I did a master's in medical statistics. So most of the work that I do is statistics based, basically looking at the increased risk of long-term adverse health effects in survivors of childhood cancer.
So a really cheery topic, as she always tells everybody, but a really important topic. So what made you want to do a PhD, Emma?
When I started my master's, which I did literally last year, when I initially started, I had absolutely no intentions of doing a PhD. I was gonna, I'd found the field I wanted to specialise in, and I was just getting ready to get a good job and go into work. It was actually only a few months into my master's that I kind of realised that I wasn't done learning yet, especially having just found this field that I really wanted to specialise in and I was so interested in. There was just so much more I wanted to know and find out. And I also, when I was thinking about jobs that I might want to do, was realising that I didn't just want to sit at a computer all day every day. Thought that potentially being in academia more long term, I might be able to do research and contribute to the field that way, as well as teaching and kind of doing other things that kind of got me on my feet a bit more. And so I thought, if I do a PhD, I can keep learning for now and I can find out more about if that's a path that I want to pursue in the future.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it was kind of the options that a PhD would give you, and then also a passion for the subject that made you want to do a PhD.
Yeah, I wanted to do it and I wanted to have it. So best of both worlds.
I realise you've not been doing the PhD long because we started at the same time, so it's about 7 months. But what so far has been your favourite part of doing the PhD?
My PhD was it was a prescribed PhD that I applied for. It wasn't a proposal that I put together myself. And so there was several projects laid out. I have 4 ongoing projects at the minute. 1 is a continuation of my master's thesis, 2 based on colorectal cancer, subsequent colorectal cancers. I was also knew I'd be working with Public Health England to use prescriptions data to look at adverse health effects in childhood cancer survivors that are dealt with in primary care. So just dealt with by the GP, and using prescriptions data to identify those conditions. And that was the only project really that I had a bit more leeway to decide where I wanted to go with that. And I was really passionate about looking at mental health outcomes, because that's something that we know kind of really affects young people. And if you've gone through something so traumatic at such a young age, I'm just so confident that that's going to have a big effect. And I really wanted that to be investigated, so there's more evidence out there to help those people who've already survived so much. And when I kind of had gone through all the processes and finally got my proposal accepted by Public Health England to look at mental health outcomes, that was such a big high for me. That's the biggest high I've had so far, of I can actually do this research and it's actually going to help some people.
Didn't know you got to pick any part of your PhD. I honestly thought it was all prescribed because of how you'd applied, and because I know how sciences are a lot more structured in terms of the projects you apply for.
Yeah, so I knew I would have to work with Public Health England. I knew I would have to use the prescriptions database, and that I would be looking at that with regards to childhood cancer survivors. But there was a bit of leeway on what health effects I actually looked at. Yeah, I just really wanted to look at mental health outcomes, and there was a few kind of challenges in the way that meant that would be a bit more difficult than some other effects, maybe like cardiac effects or something like that. So I had to kind of dig my heels in a bit to say, this is really what I want to do. So when that got accepted, I was just really happy with that.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm proud of you. I mean, I'm really passionate about mental health as well, so I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
What so far for you has been the best thing about doing a PhD at Birmingham rather than just general?
So I think for me, it would be the team that I work with. I work in a really small team at the Centre for Childhood Cancer Survivor Studies. There's me, there's one other PhD student, my 2 supervisors, another research fellow, and a data manager and another administrative member of staff. And that's the whole team. So it's kind of like a little family. We all have team meetings together every week. We all kind of know what's going on with each other's work, and kind of just have that friendliness in the office as well, which is really nice. It's been amazing, and they're such good supervisors, so supportive, and just really helping me to access all the opportunities. And yeah, so that's what it is for me, is the team that I work with.
I think that's actually really interesting because it's completely different to humanities. You do actually have a team, like you have a physical office that you go to every day, whereas also humanities, it is a lot more solo. So in that sense, I'm kind of jealous because like I don't have that. I don't have an office, I don't have a team. It's just like I've got my supervisors, but I only see them once a month, maybe a couple of other times at like events and stuff, but I don't see them on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I think when I initially wanted to do a PhD, in my mind it was kind of like I would still have a lot of the freedoms of kind of when I was doing talk courses, and actually it would be really flexible and I would do my own thing, and that kind of appealed. And now that actually I'm doing it and it's turned out to be much more structured, and my office is literally directly opposite one of my supervisors and the other one is just down the corridor, so I see them both every day under normal circumstances, not right now, but we still Skype and stuff all the time, a lot of Zoom calls. So I think actually having them there is so good for keeping me motivated. It means if I hit a wall, I can access support to, can I just dodge this issue, or what can I do about this, so quickly and easily.
A question that a lot of people want to know is, what does a typical day look like for a PhD student? And I think this varies so much from discipline to discipline. So what does a typical day look like for you?
I do like quite a lot of variety. I'm not very consistent, but I would say in general, I try and get into the office by about 10 o'clock. And in the morning, I'll initially go through my emails, but I will probably keep them open and keep checking them throughout the day as well. I don't like to let them build up, especially because sometimes with the sciences, sometimes things can suddenly move really fast and you want to catch that while it's happening. And then sometimes you can end up with massive weight. So you don't want to miss a moment. So I just always keep an eye on my emails. And then I'll probably spend the rest of the morning doing maybe some coding for some analysis, or I might be writing up some results that I've already gathered, or doing a bit of background research, something like that. Then around lunchtime, I quite like to go to the gym at lunch if I can go to a gym class, or if not, just at least get outside and get some fresh air. And when I come back in the afternoon, I'll normally have some meetings in the afternoon. And some of those are just internal meetings within the team, and we kind of discuss kind of data management and stuff like that. Or sometimes when we're looking at more broadly at projects, I have video conferences. Part of my PhD is sponsored by the Dutch Cancer Society, so I have a lot of calls with some sort of assistant supervisors, for want of a better description, that are in Amsterdam. I'm working with a lady in Germany as well on some analyses. So I have a few calls and things that go on normally in the afternoon. And then before I go home, I like to make sure I'm caught up on, I've written up minutes for all the meetings I've had, and if there's any small kind of actions that need to be taken afterwards, then I'll do those then. And any longer things will be the kind of things that I do in the late morning on other days. And I normally leave the office around 5 or 6 o'clock, depending on the day. Go home, relax, see my friends.
That sounds like way more structured than my day. Like, you actually have an office, you have
like
meetings.
The ideal day. I'm not saying that works every day.
I was gonna say, my ideal day is like leave the house by like 11, go to a cute cafe, do some work. But yeah, no, it's good actually. I didn't realise you had so many meetings. Like, I knew you had meetings with your supervisor more regularly than I did, but I didn't know you had these other stakeholders in like Amsterdam and Germany that you had to check in with.
Yeah, I speak to a lot of different people. Because I have a Public Health England supervisor, Catherine. One day a week, under normal circumstances, 1 or 2 days a week, I will go into the Public Health England offices in Birmingham, rather than into my office at the University of Birmingham. So that changes things as well, obviously.
So what have you found most challenging about the PhD so far?
I think for me, the most challenging thing is when other people hold up a project, when you can't move forward with something because you're waiting on someone else. Managing to stay motivated during that time. There was definitely a bit kind of around Christmas where I was quite downhearted with things not moving forward, and one of my supervisors actually took me to one side and spoke to me and said, kind of, you don't seem as positive as you did before, is everything okay? And we managed to find some areas that I could make a bit more progress on in the meantime, and that really helped me out a lot. So I think the most challenging thing is when other people hold you back, but also one of the best things is when there are other people in the team that can help move you forward when those things happen.
I suppose that's the thing, right? Because science tends to be so collaborative, and normally that's a really positive thing, but it does also mean you're potentially going to get these break points or like these sections where you're like, I can't move forward because I'm waiting on that. And then I can see how you could easily start to feel a bit stuck because you want to progress and you can't. Would you do anything differently about the PhD with hindsight?
I don't think that I would. I think,
to be fair, so there's not a lot of hindsight.
yeah, there's not that much hindsight. I think in retrospect, I wish I'd been more picky and tried to find out more about what my supervisors would be like. But that worked out fine for me, but I think that was more luck than judgment.
I mean, to be fair, even people in humanities who have supervisors they don't get on with, they find it a lot harder because you can't have that open dialogue with your supervisor. Like when you're stuck, if you don't get on with them, or if you don't have a good, even if it's a good professional relationship with them, you're less likely to want to go to them with problems, and that can really be demotivating.
I really enjoy working with my supervisors, so there's not anything that I'd change for me, but yeah, I think that was just luck because the supervisor that I spend more time working with now is not, I didn't realise that would be the case when I initially applied, but that's fine because it's great, it works well.
What is one place you think people have to visit when they come to Birmingham?
It's easy. It's Cadbury World. You should all go to Cadbury World. You don't even have to go in, just go to the car park and just breathe in. Like the smell is phenomenal.
Have you been to Cadbury World?
So many times. Oh my gosh, how many times I've been to Cadbury World? Literally, probably more than 10 times I've been to Cadbury World.
I think I've been 3 times on various school trips because I grew up nearish Birmingham, not like I grew up like an hour away. So it was like the place they took us when they were like, oh, we're going to do a slightly more exotic day trip.
I don't think I ever went with school, but I've definitely been with brownies several times, like as a brownie and then as a leader. And I've been with my godparents, my parents, like a great birthday day out, isn't it? Cadbury World.
Do they still give out all the free chocolate along the way?
Yeah. My nan, we went with the brownies, my nan went back to the loo and she got the chocolate again. She's such a jammy. Can you believe that?
Getting to like because there's like a playground bit, isn't there, kind of halfway through. I'd always swap with people in school because people are like, oh, I don't like crunchy. I'm like, I love crunchy, I'll give you my flake and I'll take your crunchy. The little trades.
The layout does change a lot. Like from when I was little, the layout is really different now because they change it every few years. They mix it up a bit. So you should go back. We can go together.
Yeah, I was going to say, I haven't been since I was probably like 12 years old, so it's probably changed a lot.
It's probably changed quite a bit then.
Yeah, it's like 14 years, so...
Yeah. Another really interesting thing about Cadbury World is, do you know Bourneville?
Yeah, I love Bourneville.
Yeah, so you know it's the stop that you get off to get to Cadbury World on the Cross City line.
Well, didn't they build Bourneville for their workers originally?
Yes, exactly. So it has green spaces, it has areas for sports, it had a school, and it was really, really ahead of its time in terms of how well they cared for their workers and treated them and respected them. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Go to Cadbury World, have a look around Bourneville.
Yeah, it's like a nice bit of history. It's kind of something for Birmingham to be a bit proud of, I think.
What is one piece of advice you would give to future PhD candidates, researchers, students, etc.?
Make sure you're picky about your supervisor because they'll be more important than you expect.
This is your real thing, isn't it? You're like,
look, absolutely my thing.
Okay. I think that's important though, because I do actually think, even not just for science where obviously you spend more time with your supervisor, but in general people don't maybe put as much research into their supervisor as maybe they should, not in terms of their personality. And actually I think when you go for an interview, because most people still do an interview for a PhD, remember that you're also interviewing them to an extent, like you're working out if there's someone you want to work with.
And it's so easy to forget that because the pressure is really on. And I also think it's really easy to think that what's most important is, does my supervisor's research interests line up with my own research interests? And that is important, but it's also just really important that you get on as people, that you like each other, that you can communicate effectively. You're willing them to want you and you forget, do I want them though? Maybe I don't want them.
So that was my interview with Emma. I hope you guys found it useful, especially if you are a science, medical, data person. And yeah, Emma, do you want to say a few final words?
Thanks for watching. Bye.
If you have any questions for Emma or myself, leave them down below and I will pass them over to her and get back to you. And also don't forget to subscribe and like. Bye.